Okay, today we are going to see about the constructors in Java. Right, yesterday we have completed discussing about what is the hash code method and what is the toString method. So these methods are part of object class, and inside the object class we have totally 11 methods, right? And these methods are a few among them. Hash code method is also there. Is also part of those 11 methods. This toString method is one of the methods in the object class. We have understood its implementation and we have understood its importance in the yesterday's class. So today we will start discussing about the complete picture about Java constructors. Right? So when I say constructors, so let me jump into the topic really quick. So the constructor is like a block of code. You can say that the constructor is just a block of code, which is similar to Java method, which is similar to the Java methods. However, it does not have any return value. Does not have any return value. So return value is like, you have void as a return type. You can have any kind of primitive data type as a return type, but whereas for the constructor, you cannot have any return type. So what is the actual use of constructor? For example, let us say that when you are creating an object, there is a class A, and if you want to create an object for this particular class, what you do usually, you just say a obj equal to new. So this is the procedure to perform the object creation, right? So the moment you start creating an object, so whenever the main thread is encountering this object creation instruction, so many things will happen behind the scenes. Let's say so many things. I can also say that whenever an object is created, for a particular class, okay, the constructor will be called automatically. First point, the constructor will be called automatically. Very important point. So whenever you are creating the object with a new keyword, the constructor will be called automatically. Okay. And the second point is, at the time of calling the constructor, the memory will get allocated. Right? So don't worry, we will discuss these things practically, and you should follow some rules. Okay, there are some rules defined to create a Java constructor. Okay, there are some rules defined to do what? To create a Java constructor. So what are the rules? The first rule is the constructor should be, the rule number one, the constructor name should be, constructor name must be same as the class name. Okay? So how this can be validated, how this can be justified? For example, if I have a class A, we want to define a constructor explicitly. The name of the constructor should be same as the class name. What is the name of the class A? Okay, followed by the simple brackets and a block of, followed by a block. So this is the constructor of class A, right? The name of the constructor should be same as the class name. For example, if I have the name of the class as class B, right? And if you want to define a constructor inside the class B explicitly, so this is how the constructor is going to be. So this is the constructor. Should be same as the class name. Right? This is the first point. Okay? The very typical condition. Okay. Second point is the constructor can't have any explicit return type. So return type, see for example, when you are defining a Java method, right? For example, let us say that there is a method like void addition method is there. Okay? So anyone with the eyes can say that the name of the medicine is addition, the name of the method is addition method, first of all. The second thing is, the method also talks about the return type. Here the return type is void, right? So when you want to define a method, you should define in such a way that the method is going to have the method name as well as the return type is also mandatory. Here the void is the return type, this is also mandatory. These things, this return type is not applicable for Java constructor. That is the meaning of this point. The constructor cannot have any explicit return type. Right? So there is no point of adding void here. Okay, it is invalid. It cannot be called as a constructor. The constructor should not have any return type. The first rule is it should be same as a class name. Second rule is it cannot have any return type. Right? The third rule. Okay, constructor cannot be a static. Okay, so let me write this. Constructor can't be a static. Okay, or abstract. Okay, or final and synchronized. Okay, you cannot use the static keyword. For example, you have an option of to define a method. Okay, you can define a method like in two ways. Okay, one can be a static method. You can use the static keyword before the method, or you can, if you are not using the static keyword, this will be called as non-static method. But when you want to define a constructor, you cannot define it with these keywords. You cannot use static, you cannot use abstract, you cannot use final, you cannot use synchronous. So these are the three important points that you have to remember when you are defining a constructor. Okay, and the fourth point is, let me remove all this. Okay, fourth point is, the fourth point says, whenever the programmer means, so you are a programmer, I am also a programmer. Whenever the programmer is not defining a constructor explicitly, the compiler will place a constructor. Compiler will place a constructor, and the constructor that is being placed by the compiler, which is called as what? Default constructor. It is called as default constructor. Okay, for example, if you have a class A, right, and inside this class A you have placed a main method. Let me take it like public static void main. I'm taking the shortcut. Okay, public static void main. So inside the class A you have the main method, and you have what? You just have the main method, right? And if you give this piece of code to the compiler will check if is there any constructor defined by the programmer. The programmer did not define any constructor, right? So the compiler is going to add a constructor which is going to be same as the class name. Okay, name of the class is A, right? And followed by a block. Okay, so these things will be defined by the compiler. So the constructor that is defined by the compiler is called as what? The default constructor. So this default constructor will come into the picture. This is called as default constructor. So when the programmer is not placing any constructor, the compiler will place a constructor. So that constructor is called as what? Default constructor. Right? So these are the things that you have to remember to do what? To understand about the constructor. These are the four rules. But the question is, why we have to use the constructor? That is the very I can say that is one of the greatest questions that you can ask me. Question is, why the constructor is required? What is the difference if you are not using any constructor? What are the advantages that we are going to get when one is using the constructor? Okay? Let me give you the small analogy. Okay. Now, for example, when I was after completing my my schooling, after completing my intermediate, right? I went to I went to put some applications in one of the major colleges in Chennai, right? So you are allowed to do what? You are allowed to enroll for the courses in any colleges. So before even seeing your actual results, you have an option to start the enrollment. Okay, you can apply for the admission. No matter no matter about what score you are going to secure, that is secondary, but you have an option to apply for what? Apply for the admissions. Okay, so when you go to any college, let us say that the name of the college is ABC, college name is ABC. If you just if you just visit any colleges, what usually they will ask you your personal details. For example, let me take that student one is visiting. Okay, the student one is going to receive a form. That form is going to ask some details. For the simplicity, I am taking the name information. Second information is age information. Okay. Student one is trying to get an admission in ABC college. So they have given a form first. To fill in that form, they are looking for these two details, name and the age. Right? Likewise, the student two is also visiting. Okay, and he gets the same form and he needs to fill this two informations. Likewise, student 3 also visiting. He gets the same form and he needs to fill this two information. Right? Likewise, n number of students may visit, isn't it? Likewise, n number of students may visit. So those every student is going to get the same form and they need to submit it. Okay, yes, okay. They are looking for these two informations, right? Name and age. Name and age. So if I just convert this analogy to the Java example, I can simply say that I have a class. The name of the class is student. First thing, okay? This can be represented like a class. Okay, so the college can be represented like a class. Right? Inside this, okay, every student is being asked to enter his name and the age. These two things are common for all the students, isn't it? Two things are very much common for all the students, isn't it? So I can take it like the property. Okay? The first property is name property, which is in the form of string. Second property is the age property, which is in the form of a number, right? And you are not assigning any values because you are looking for these values from the student, right? So you are just declaring this. So you have just declared this in the form. This is the form. This form is expecting these two values, these two data. I am just converting this analogy to the Java example. So Java will consider this kind of analogy like a property. Okay, two properties, name property and age property. Student, name property, and class. So with one class, okay, this is one class, right? I can create n number of objects, right? I can create S1 object. Okay, every time you create an object, you collect data. For the student S1, you create an object, you collect data from the student S1. The S1 student is going to enter his name like, for example, let me say Suresh. Something like Suresh, he will enter his name like Suresh, and his age is something like 20. Likewise, S2 student, okay, he enters his name something like, Radha, and the age is 21. And S3 student, something like Ajay, okay, and the age is 19. Right? So these details will be, okay, the information is being submitted by each and every student. We want to submit the information by using the Java class. If you want to submit the same information by using the Java class, you have to go for what? You have to go for constructor, because by using constructor, you can do what? You can initialize the instance variables. Let me repeat. By using constructors, you can initialize the values to the instance variables. Okay, let me write this point here. The major point is, please be informed. Please be informed that by using Java constructors, you can initialize the values to the instance variables. So what does it mean? So what is this instance variables? Okay, let me write a program, small program. Small program is like, let me remove this. Let me also remove this. Not required, not required. I have a class here. Let me take the name of the class as student class. Okay, my student class is going to have two properties, the similar properties which we have discussed in our example. The similar properties I am taking. One is the name property, right? Name property, the data type is going to be string, right? So I am just performing the declaration, right? Second one is the age property, right? Which is going to be represented in the form of the integer data type. So this is just a declaration. I am not assigning any values. I want to assign the values dynamically. I want to assign the values in the real time, not now. I want to assign the values whenever the object is getting created. I want to assign the values. Right now, if you see what would happen now, if I ask you what are these two things, you would say that, sir, these two things are properties or these two things are variables. And again, if I am asking a question, can you be little specific? You should say that these two properties are what? These two variables are the instance variables. Okay. Any variable that is inside the class but outside the method, they are called as what? Instance variables or class level variables. Class level variables. Right? What I was just saying, look at the notes. By using Java constructors, you can initialize the values to the instance variables. So how to perform this initialization? So we know now, we got to know what is the instance variables. How can I perform the initialization for these instance variables? Okay, let us understand it. Okay. So for the time being, what would happen if I create an object for this? The moment I start creating an object for the student S1, student S1 equal to new student. Okay. And after this, what I want to do, I want to say S1 dot name, okay, equal to something like, let me say Ajay. Okay. Next one is S1 dot age equal to, let me say 21. Let me remove this. Okay. Now let me, if I try to compile and execute this, there are so many things that would happen in the memory level. Okay, what are the things? Let's start from the main class. In the main class, the first instruction is the object creation. Okay, because of the new keyword, we know an object will be created, right? And the memory gets allocated in the heap area, right? And also try to understand that, okay, you are calling after the new keyword, you are calling what? You are calling the constructor. Okay, this is what? This is the student constructor. The combination of class and opening and the closing parenthesis is nothing but you are typically calling, knowingly or unknowingly, right? You are just calling a constructor which is called as what? You are calling a student constructor. Okay, I can say that student constructor is called student constructor is being called. Okay. The control will try to find for the student constructor, okay? But there is no student constructor, right? But before even the execution, the compiler will ensure that a default constructor would be added. Default constructor would be added. Okay, it will be like same as the class name followed by the block. This default constructor will be placed by the compiler. Since the programmer is not placing it, the compiler will ensure that a default constructor is placed, right? And what it is going to do, the control will jump to the student constructor, right? We must be thinking that, okay, the control is going here and coming back here again. Our thoughts are just like that. But actually, it goes and it comes back here, and also it will ensure that how many properties are there? True properties. Okay. The default values will be assigned to these two properties by the constructor itself. Execution of constructor is nothing but the control is going and coming back here. Control is going and coming back here, right? And it also does one more thing. It will assign the default values to the instance variables. How many default values are there? Name property is there. Okay, you are not assigning any value. Okay, what the JVM is going, main thread is going to do, what the constructor is going to do. Constructor will ensure that a default value is assigned. For age property, okay, it is of integer type, so default value is 0 for integer. So 0 will be assigned. Right? Let me repeat this. The moment you start creating an object, a memory gets created, guys. First of all, memory space will be created in an area called heap area. We have discussed these things a lot of times. From day before, actually, we are discussing heap area, memory will be created, right? And the job of the new keyword is done. After that, a constructor, the student constructor is being called. Control will be transferred to the student constructor and it is going to come back, right? But during this transition, okay, this constructor will ensure that the default values are assigned to all the properties. You have two properties, name property and age property. You haven't assigned any values directly, so the constructor will ensure that the default values are assigned. Right? After this, the next line is what? Next line is, okay, now you are explicitly assigning the values. You are saying s1 dot name, okay, and this is going to get a reference value s1 in the stack area. Okay, what you are saying, get access to the name variable and place the value Ajay. Okay? The name variable now is going to get what? Ajay. Okay? And next one is the age variable. Okay, s1 dot age variable is 21. Now you are explicitly assigning these values to the name variable and the age variable. This is what happened. Now you might be thinking, sir, we know these things already. We have been discussing about these things already. But what is the takeaway? They ask me the takeaway. What if I want to assign these values at the time of object creation? I need to find a way, guys. Let me remember. Now look at this instruction. Okay, let me say at the time of object creation. Student S1 equal to new student. At the time of object creation, I should find a way to do what? To assign the values of the respective student. How I can do that? So this is one of the ways where I am able to assign the values explicitly. So I am again wasting two more lines. But I want to do the same thing. I want to do the same thing, same assignation within the one line. Within the one line, what I can do is simply I can pass what, instead of doing this, I can do something like this. Let me say student S1 equal to new student. Okay, I should be passing the values. First student value is what? Ajay, as a parameter to the constructor. As a parameter to the constructor. What is the second value? Second value is what? Age, as a parameter to the constructor. Okay, so these brackets are there. Okay, these brackets are there to pass down some data in the form of parameters. Focus here. We have two properties. We have name property and age property. I want to assign the values at the time of object creation. With the same line, I want to assign the values. What I can do? I can use this opening and closing brackets, right? And I can pass two values as a parameter. First is the direct data I can pass Ajay, and age I can pass it. Right? But the problem is, this will be treated as what? This will be treated as a parameterized constructor. So this section will be treated as what? Treated as a parameterized constructor. Okay? This constructor is different than this constructor. Okay, this constructor is a constructor which is not accepting any parameters, but this is a constructor which is accepting what? Two parameters. So you should remodify your constructor in such a way that your constructor is accepting the values that you are trying to pass inside the student constructor as the parameters. How I can perform the modification? Okay, very simple. Let me remove this. Let me remove this line. Okay. I want to assign the value to the name variable. Okay, I will be passing the Ajay here. I want to assign the value to the age variable. I will be passing something like 20 here. Okay, so this is the student constructor, right? Let me copy this. Let me explicitly design my student constructor. This time my student constructor is going to accept two parameters, two arguments, right? The name of the first argument is what? It is going to accept any data in the form of string type. Okay, let me take n. The name of the second argument is what? It is going to accept any argument of integer type. Let me take it as m. Okay, now this is making more sense. Okay, now for the new object, for the new keyword, an object is getting created, and for this line, a constructor which is accepting two parameters. Okay, one is the name parameter, second one is the age parameter, right? So when you just check the data types, this is of string type and this is of integer type. So there is a matching constructor here which is accepting two arguments. So you are transferring the data you should have such a constructor which is going to receive the data that you're transferring. So you're transferring Ajay, which is in the form of string. You need to find a constructor which is receiving the string. You're passing the number which is in the form of integer. You should have a constructor which is accepting the integer in the second argument. So this is how you have to think. Okay, you are passing two values. You need to represent a constructor which is accepting those two values. After doing this, simply I'm going to do what? Simply I'm going to accept this n, right? Accept this n. I will be assigning it to the name variable, class level variable. I will accept this m. Okay. I will be assigning to what? I will be assigning it to the age variable. Okay, let me run this code. Let me say system.out.println. Okay. I want to access what? s1.name. I want to access what? s1.age. Okay. Let me save this file. Save as student dot right. Now see some kind of magical thing will happen behind the scene. Java C space student dot Java, student dot Java, Java space student. We are getting Ajay 20. Okay. So now see now let us understand the idea here. Okay. Understand this. Let me trace it out. Okay. So this program is giving the justification, especially for a particular line base. Okay, this is that particular line. By using Java constructors, you can initialize the values to the instance variables. Okay, this is that very important line. To understand this line, you should understand this tracing part. This is the tracing part. Only to give justification to this particular line. Okay. Now let us start from the beginning. Tracing part. Okay. Let us start directly from the main method. Okay. Now if you see the main method, the object is getting created. For the new keyword, an object is getting created, right? And the reference variable is what? S1. Okay, it will be like S1. Usually it is the reference value, but for the simplicity, I am taking the variable S1. Right? After this, okay, you are what? You are doing what? You are calling the student constructor, which is accepting what? Two arguments. The first argument is of what type? String type. Okay, the second argument is of what type? Integer type. Okay, the control will try to look for the student constructor which is accepting the string as a first argument and integer argument. It is your responsibility to place such constructor. Okay, it has found this constructor. At the same time, it is carrying those two values. What are those two values? Okay, Ajay and 20. These two values are transferred to the constructor. Okay, this Ajay is getting assigned to the name variable and this 20 is getting assigned to the age variable. Okay. So you are assigning Ajay to what variable? Name variable. So in the memory, name variable will be carrying the value Ajay, right? And you are assigning the value 20 to the age variable. So the age variable is going to carry hold the value 20. Hold the value 20. Right? Through the constructor, you are assigning the values to the instance variable. You are transmitting the values to the instance variables. Right? So instance variables, before even doing this, okay, let's try to understand this. Before even doing this, by the beginning, the values are going to be null. Age value is also going to be a default value 0. The moment you try to call a constructor that is accepting string and the integer, right? These default values will be changed to the actual values that is being transmitted to call that constructor, which is what? Ajay and 20. Okay, and 20. Right? And this is going to get transmitted to the constructor. This Ajay is going to be assigned to the name variable. 20 is going to be getting assigned to the age variable. So that's the reason why the default values will be converted from null to what? Ajay. And the second time is what? Second thing is what? Age. Age is what? 20. This operation is happening for one constructor. So what is the advantage that we are going to get? you can define any number of constructors. Okay, for example, if I have student S2, okay, student S2, student S2, equal to new student. The second student can be what? Ramesh. Okay, the age can be something like 21. Okay, so this S2 object will carry the Ramesh as the name in the name variable and 21 as the age variable. Likewise, you can have any number of constructors. So each and every each and every object is going to have its own data. Each and every object is going to have its own data. So Ramesh can be there, and Suresh can be there, Lokesh can be there, okay, and Vignesh can be there. Okay, and Mukesh can be there. Mukesh can be there. Okay, 21, 20, 20. Okay, let me take some random values, 19, okay, 18, right, and 22, right. So this student constructor, okay, which is an explicit constructor, is ensuring that within one line you can able to, initialize the respective values to the instance variables. This is just like if you go back and see the analogy which I have just mentioned. Okay, whenever you are trying to visit a college for an admission, okay, they look for some peculiar information like name and age. Okay, each and every student is going to get a form, is going to fill his own name. So this each and every name and age is with respect to each and every student, right? So the same thing you are doing, the same analogy is getting converted in the Java. In the Java, you are using a constructor which is accepting what? 2 arguments. So this is going to make how many objects in the memory? 6 objects will be created in the memory. The 6 lines of code will have 6 different objects, and each and every object is going to have the typical data, a unique data. Okay, likewise, 6 objects will be created. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay. This is S1. S1 is going to have what? S1 is going to have Ajay and Ramesh. Okay, S2 is going to have, Ajay and 20. S2 is going to have Ramesh 21. Okay, S3 is going to have Suresh 20. S4 is going to have Lokesh 19. S5 is going to have Vignesh 18. S6 is going to have what? Location data. How we are able to achieve this? With the help of what? With the help of a constructor. Now, can you see a justification for my respective statement, which is what? Using Java constructor, you can initialize the values to the instance variables. You may be thinking, are we going to use the same thing while developing the real-time application? 100% you will be using this. 100% you will be using the constructors. Without constructors, you cannot perform the data transfer. Data transfer is not possible without using the Java. In real-time Java enterprise application, everywhere you will be using this constructor concept to do the data transfer. Have you got some picture about what is a constructor? Can I get yes or no from everyone? Have you got at least something about what is a constructor?
Yes, sir.
Right? What about others? Only Balaji is responding. Sudhir. What about others? Right. Okay. Now, Teja, Monica, Revati, Stefan, Manisha, Dinesh is there. Are you getting this? Say something in the chat box, guys. Let's keep the session interactive. Okay. So let us look this in a broader picture, right? So now there will be some case study. Let me remove this. Now I just want to do a kind of work. Visible, no? Yeah. Visible, right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Now I want you to understand one more thing here. Okay. So see, we know that, okay, if I try to print system.out.println, okay, and definitely I would see a kind of what S2, okay, S3. We have discussed these things yesterday. S4, you have something like S5. Okay, you have something like S6. I'm not doing anything. I'm just trying to print the reference variable. S1 I'm trying to print. When I do this, definitely the output is going to be a kind of what? Two-string method will be called. Yes or no? Yesterday I have said this, right? Yesterday's class, you get what two-string. What is a two-string method? The reference where, okay, the memory. See guys, we know these things already. Don't think I'm repeating this. Okay, what happens? The moment the object is getting created, the JVM is going to do what? The JVM is going to generate a random number, right? Generate a random number for each and every memory area. A random number will be generated. So that will be generated by using the hash code. See in yesterday's videos, you will understand. Hash code is going to generate a random number, right? After the hash code, this hash code will be converted to hexadecimal number. The hexadecimal number is going to get prefixed with the class name @ symbol followed by the hexadecimal number. So this is what happening. Okay, the reference value is getting printed. Why the reference value is getting printed? Because internally two-string method of object class is getting called. Two-string method of object class is getting called. It is just like we just see S1 internally two-string method is being called. Okay, compiler is going to call what? Call the two-string method on top of this reference variable. Internally it is just like calling the two-string method. We don't see these things, but the compiler will do these things. Okay, two-string method is being called. Two-string method is being called. But my intention is, okay, I just want to print the values. Just want to print the values. Okay, what I can do? I can just trick the compiler. I can just trick the compiler in such a way that my compiler is going to print the exact values that is there inside the object. How I can trick the compiler? Okay, sir. Okay, let me take another English. Okay, sir. Okay, this is our now you see guys, right? Always remember one thing. Okay, if you give this code to the compiler, now see the difference. Going to use what? Extends keyword and extends to object class. First thing. Second thing is, when the class is not declared with any access modifier, it will be declared as default by pronunciation. Third thing is, it will try to place the constructor, but here it is not going to place a constructor because programmer has placed a constructor already. Programmer has placed a constructor. The compiler will not place any default constructor. Only if the programmer is not placing such constructor, the compiler will place a default constructor. Program already placed, no. Compiler will not mind this. It will not mind to place any new constructor. After the execution starts from the main method, right? So what is the first instruction? Very first instruction, right? Object creation, right? So let me just create an object for this. Okay. The object is getting created. So this object, right? The reference variable is what? S1 is a reference variable, isn't it? S1 is a reference variable. And name is going to be what? Ajay. Second one is what? Age is going to be something like 20. Now if you focus here, this is done. The next line is what? S1 dot toString. Okay, I did not add this toString. Okay, just imagine that this toString is going to be added by the compiler. Whenever you are trying to print the reference variable in the system.out.println statement, internally Java compiler is going to call the toString method, right? Now the control will try to look for the toString method in the current class. The current class, it has not found any toString method, right? So the control will jump to the object class. It will execute the object class toString method. That's the reason why you are getting a kind of what? Getting a kind of the reference value like something like this. So if you see here, this is what you're getting. So name of the class student, no? It's not your student. Something like this. I want to ensure that when I try to print the reference variable, I want to ensure that the data is actually getting displayed, age and the name and the age. I need to block this control. I need to block the main method. Okay, the main method should not go to the object class. Okay, I need to ensure that ensure that the main thread is finding the toString method in the student class itself. I will be doing what? I will be ensuring my own toString method. I will be placing my own toString method. Okay, to trick the JVM, so that the JVM will execute my own toString method. Right? I can say that public the return type is string. I am saying I can just use return the name plus age. Just by adding these 3 lines, public string, okay, toString. So this is a method. The return type of the method is string itself. I will be returning what? I want to return the reference values, name value plus age value. Okay. The moment if I run this, if I rerun this code once again, toString method will be called. But this time the toString method will be called from the student class. Inside the student class, I have placed my own toString method. I am just tricking the main thread to ensure that the main thread is executing my toString method. So this concept is called as overriding concept. Okay, that is a future topic. Don't worry about that. For now, try to understand that we are just using our own toString method. So that the control will not jump to the object class toString method. It will execute our own toString method. What our own toString method is doing? It is going to returning the name and the age. What is the name and the age for each and every object? For the S1 of reference variable, the name is Ajay, the age is 20. If I just execute this code, Java C space student, okay, 1 minute. Concatenation missing. Java C space student.java, Java space student. Now if you see Ajay 20, Ramesh 21, Suresh 20, Lokesh 19, Vignesh 18, Mukesh 22, which is doing these things, right? Your own toString method. You have placed your own toString method. So this is ensuring that the JVM is being triggered to execute this toString method. Internally toString method will be called. Now this will call your toString method. Right? Your toString method, you want to print what? You want to print a name and the age. What is the name inside S1? Ajay. What is the age inside S2? 20. That will be printed. Likewise, what is the name inside S2? Ramesh 21. What is the name inside S3? Suresh 20. These values will be printed because you wanted those values to be printed. If I am doing something like testing, since I am placing the testing, okay, which is not making any sense actually. I want to print testing. If I run this code, every time testing will be printed because you want that to be displayed in the output, but I don't want that to be displayed in the output. I just want to display what? I just want to display the name variable and the age variable, right? So I am taking name here plus I'm keeping some space and taking age here. This time name of Ajay, the S1 reference variable as name Ajay 20, that will be printed. S2 as Ramesh 21, that will be printed. Likewise, it is going to get printed with respect to properties. It's your duty to write the code in such a way that it is fulfilling the actual requirement. toString method, right? So don't get any confusion. We will be discussing this. We will be again getting this toString topic over and over again in the upcoming classes. Okay. For now, our understanding has to be only on top of what? Only on top of the Java constructors. Have you got some understanding of what is a constructor? Now, whenever anyone is asking a question, what is the Java constructor? First, directly answer this. Java constructor, by using Java constructor, you can initialize the values to the instance variables. What is the purpose? If they are asking you very specifically, what is the purpose of Java constructor? It is just used to initialize the values to the instance variables. If you don't remember this, just remember this admission analogy. Right? And if they are asking you about the rules, these 4 rules are more than enough. It must be same as the class name. It cannot have any explicit return type. Constructors cannot be static, final, blah blah blah. And whenever the program is not defined, the compiler will place a constructor which is called as a default constructor. Right? What is the whenever an object is created for the class, the constructor will be called automatically. At the time of calling the constructor, the memory gets allocated. Each and every line, I have given justification for each and every line. Don't you think so? It does not have any return type. Right? Where we are going to use this? The real-time application, there are lot of areas, okay? Lot of areas. You will be dealing with constructors a lot. Because that is going to act as the data transfer. You collect data from the front end, okay? You might be thinking these topics can be ignored. These things are look like, okay, you can ignore this topic. It's not like that. Real-time applications, you collect data from the front end, guys. You collect data from the front end. For example, let us say that just want to collect the name and the age. Same example I am taking. Front end, you can use the JavaScript. Okay, and you need to. This data will be integrated. Okay, there will be an integration between front end and the back end. You will integrate this two with the REST APIs. Okay. So back end, you will be using Java. You use Java class. Inside the Java class, you will be using a constructor. Okay, you will be using the constructor with respect to these two fields. Okay, the name field is what? String name, and the age is what? Integer age. The moment the end user is entering his name and age, every time an object will be created, and the values, this reference variable is going to have the values through the constructors. Through the constructor, it is going to have the values assigned to the instance variables. Definitely, this constructor is going to act as a data carrier, right? So, string name, string n, like integer m. Okay, whenever the object is created, whenever you are saying a obj equal to new a, right? The details that you are collecting here, this you can collect information like Balaji, and you can collect something like 19, right? So you catch these details in the constructor. You catch these details in the constructor. Through the constructor, you are going to catch these details. Okay, after catching these details, an object will be created, and you will transmit this data. Okay, you will transmit this data to get stored in the database. So it will be acting as a data carrier. Every time the constructors are used to act as a data carrier. You carry data and you give it to database, and you receive data from the database, you give it to the front end. Through and flow operation, request and response. Okay, don't ever underestimate any topic in Java, even yesterday's topic, hash code and toString method. It may not make any sense to you. The moment you start implementing that, you just when you start using that in the real-time application, there will be some areas where we will be using those hash code method, toString method. So there you will see its actual advantages. Never ever ignore or never ever underestimate any topic in Java. I'm going to teach. Okay. So that's all about the constructors. Tomorrow we will see the kind of there's a lot of tricky questions in the constructors. Okay, it is such a big topic. By tomorrow we'll conclude the constructors. Okay, then we will start discussing about the remaining hooks topic. Okay, so there is something like this keyword is there, super keyword is there, okay, and this function is there. So many things are there in the hooks concepts. We will discuss about